in the 4th year of my marriage to my childhood sweetheart. He anonymously posted a question on an online QA site. I'm married, but I've developed a physical attraction to another girl. What should I do? Some advised him to remain faithful to his marriage and his partner, and not lose what truly mattered over something trivial. Others joked that life was short and one should enjoy pleasure while one could. That marriage should not become a shackle preventing him from pursuing happiness. He did not respond, but he saved one of the answers. Some people may go their entire lives without ever meeting someone they feel such strong physical attraction toward. What's more, based on the poster's description, this girl clearly has feelings for you as well. All I can say is, opportunities like this don't come twice. That is all I have to say. Best wishes. That night, I received a call from him saying that he suddenly had to go on a business trip out of town. Chapter 1. Over the phone. Eric's tone was the same as always. Gentle, doting, and endlessly patient. Honey, the temperature is dropping these next few days. Your thicker clothes are on the top shelf of the closet. Make sure you stay warm. Don't make me worry. You really liked the crispy candy from that shop when we went to Union City last time. I'll bring you some more when I come back. I won't be here to drive you these next couple of days, so be careful when you drive by yourself, okay? He attended to every detail. With each reminder he gave me, I softly murmured an acknowledgement in response. Toward the end, his tone became somewhat suggestive. By the time I come back, it'll be right around your ovulation period. We had been trying for a baby for over half a year. During these few days every month, he was always particularly enthusiastic. There was not the slightest sign of what he had said in his anonymous question that he could no longer feel any desire for me. Honey, I'm about to board the plane. Be good and wait for me at home. Okay? I answered softly. My fingertips were trembling slightly, and it took me 2 tries before I successfully tapped the end call button. After the call screen disappeared, the content I had originally been browsing appeared on my phone. It was an anonymous question I had casually clicked on out of boredom. I'm married, but I've developed a physical attraction to another girl. What should I do? Perhaps married women had a particular sensitivity toward questions like this. I tapped into it. Out of habit, I read the description first. Yet among those tiny details, bit by bit, I pieced together the shadow of Eric in me. I've been married to my wife for 4 years. We were childhood sweethearts who grew up together. We've spent more time accompanying each other than even our parents have. On the night we filled out our college applications at 18, I confessed my feelings to her. We kissed for the first time, and I will never forget the deafening sound of my heartbeat at that moment. At 26, when the company we founded together secured its first major order, I proposed to her downstairs outside the company building. When she said yes, I felt like the happiest man in the world. This year, we are 30. We are trying for a baby. She is really looking forward to it because she loves children. I love her very, very much. We have long since become part of each other's lives. But from last year until now, I have started developing an uncontrollable physical attraction to another girl. That girl has an outgoing and bold personality. Compared to my wife, she has a much sexier, more seductive figure, and she often sends me flirtatious messages. I went from finding it annoying at first to now looking forward to it. Just a little. I don't know what's wrong with me. My love for my wife clearly hasn't diminished in the slightest. But in bed, I always think of that girl. I've even lost all desire for my wife. I know I'm wrong. I don't care if everyone insults me. I only wish someone could insult some sense back into me. Married to my childhood sweetheart for 4 years. Confessed to her on the night we filled out our college applications at 18. Proposed downstairs outside the company building at 26. Every single detail perfectly matched Eric's and my past. Almost instinctively, I opened Eric's profile. There was no trace of this question among his activity or posts, but a woman's sixth sense was screaming a warning. A moment later, I got up and went to the study, then turned on the computer Eric usually used. He had not shut it down, and the lock screen password was our wedding anniversary. The web version of the QA site had his account logged in by default. I gently clicked it open. Then, inside the private favorites folder on his profile, I saw that he had saved an answer beneath the question, one that did not even have particularly many likes. Some people may go their entire lives without ever meeting someone they feel such strong physical attraction toward. What's more, based on the poster's description, This girl clearly has feelings for you as well. All I can say is, opportunities like this don't come twice. That is all I have to say. Best wishes. Chapter 2. I sat dazedly in the chair in the study. For a long time, I stared at the word life in the title of the favorites folder. I felt as though my soul had briefly left my body. My entire body was as stiff as a marionette. With trembling fingers, I opened the WeChat account Eric had logged into on the computer. In 4 years of marriage, this was the first time I had ever looked at his messaging app. Perhaps the trust built over so many years together had made Eric lower his guard. His WeChat account was still logged in. Thinking of the descriptions outgoing in bold and sexy and seductive, I hesitated for a moment before opening one of the chat windows. The most recent chat time displayed was 2:30 in the morning. The first thing that appeared before my eyes was a mirror selfie of a woman wearing a tight black bodycon skirt and vivid red thigh-high stockings with garter straps. The woman in the photo wore a tight white shirt one size too small, the ample curves of her chest nearly bursting out. Her waist was slightly arched, making her hips appear full and curvaceous. Black patent leather high heels encased her feet, which were clad in red thigh-high stockings, making her look sexy and provocative. I had to admit that even as another woman, I could not help wanting to look at her a little longer. Beneath the photo, Eric, who should have been sound asleep beside me, had replied several minutes later, still not asleep. The girl with the cartoon rabbit profile picture responded with 2 words, hee hee. Chapter 3. I knew this girl too. She was Diana, the administrative assistant the company had hired last year. Her looks were ordinary, but she had a voluptuous, sexy figure. When she first joined the company, her various black stockings, bodycon skirts, and plunging V-neck tops had drawn a great deal of attention. After Eric ran into her several times, he was very displeased, saying that dressing like that would affect the company's image. I could still remember his deeply furrowed brows when he mentioned it to me that day. If her work performance weren't fairly good, I would have fired someone like her long ago. I called him an old-fashioned prude. Everyone appreciates beauty. If I had a figure that good, I'd dress like that too. Eric frowned as he looked at me. No, you can only wear clothes like that at home. You can only wear them for me to see. As he spoke, he slowly wrapped his arms around me. Fine. Warm kisses fell against the back of my neck, and his voice became somewhat muffled. My wife has the best figure. No one can compare to you. So the lies had already started back then. After Eric spoke to her, Diana changed her style of dress. But even beneath loose, flowing clothing, glimpses of her voluptuous curves could still be seen. And not long after Diana joined the company, Eric transferred me to a branch office a 10-minute walk from headquarters under the pretext of business restructuring. I scrolled through their chat history. There was so much of it, and the messages were so frequent. The photos Diana sent Eric were not limited to black stockings and bodycon skirts. There were all kinds of alluring maid outfits, nurse uniforms, bunny girl costumes, everything imaginable. As for Eric's attitude, it had gradually changed from the righteous indignation of the beginning, delete that message, do this again, and you can pack your things and leave, to his present-day responses, still not asleep, and, don't do this. It's not really appropriate. His defenses were collapsing bit by bit, on countless late nights and early mornings when I thought we were sleeping in each other's arms. Eric had been replying to her messages. In the quiet stillness of the night, the woman would send several sexy, provocative selfies. The man would reply with a few flirtatious messages that stopped just short of going too far. This happened day after day, continuing for half a year, and I had known nothing. Chapter 4. At 10:30 that evening, Eric sent me a message along with the location of his hotel. This is the same place we stayed in the last time I came to Yin City with you. I miss you so much. This had always been his habit. No matter where he went, as soon as he settled in, he would always report back to me immediately. I kept a regular schedule. Normally, at this hour, I would already have been sound asleep. But tonight, I did not feel sleepy in the slightest as I looked at the hotel location. 1 year earlier, Eric's mother had been pressuring us intensely to have a child. I had been under so much stress that I woke up crying from a dream in the middle of the night. So Eric took me to Yin City to clear my mind. It was a city with beautiful natural scenery. During those few days, he pushed aside all the work he had on hand and accompanied me every day as we toured the mountains and rivers, wandered around town, and went shopping. When we were riding the bumper cars at the amusement park, he leaned close to my ear and said softly, "I blocked Mom for you. I told her that if she needs anything in the future, she can come to me instead of bothering you. Olivia, having you in this lifetime is enough for me. As for children, if you want one, we'll have one. If you don't, not even the most powerful person in the world can force you to give birth." Olivia was my childhood nickname. After my mother died, Eric was the only person in the world who still called me that. But those beautiful memories in Union City had now become the weapon that killed my love. Chapter 5. Eric's so-called business trip this time was supposed to last 3 days. I spent one day collecting and organizing the chat records between him and Diana. Then I found a lawyer and had them take stock of all the shares and assets under Eric's and my names. After that, I boarded a flight in the early hours of the following morning and arrived in Union City at the crack of dawn. Meanwhile, just as he always did when away on business trips, Eric made 3 video calls to me every day to report his itinerary and express his concern for me. He covered every detail flawlessly. Even when I asked whether he was staying in the same room as last time, he told me honestly that he was, as though the answer lying in his favorites folder and those thousands of chat messages with Diana were nothing but my hallucinations. The hotel carpet was thick and soundproof. I counted the room numbers one by one. Only when I pressed the doorbell of room 806 did I realize that my entire body was trembling. A sultry female voice came from inside. "Who is it?" It was Diana's voice. It felt like a condemned prisoner finally receiving the bullet that would pierce through her chest. The pain made my fingertips curl inward. I did not speak. I simply pressed the doorbell a second time. A few seconds later, the door opened. "We didn't call room sir." The rest of Diana's words came to an abrupt halt. She was wrapped in a pure white bath towel, the ample swell of her chest pressed together into a deep cleavage, while beneath it, her legs were long, straight, and voluptuous. A faint blush colored her face, lending a hint of seductiveness to her otherwise plain features. A voice I knew all too well sounded from behind her. "Is it hotel staff?" The next second, Eric walked out of the bathroom with only a towel wrapped around his lower body, his body still damp and covered in the humid traces of a recent shower. The moment our eyes met, Eric's pupils suddenly constricted. Chapter 6. The next second, Eric forcefully shoved Diana outside. The force was so great that she almost fell to the floor. Diana cried out in surprise. "Eric, what are you doing? Go back to your room." Then Eric looked at me almost urgently, his eyes filled with panic. "Honey, it's not what it looks like. Listen to me explain." Diana's shower broke. She only came to my room to take a shower. "Don't misunderstand." As he spoke, he sharply reprimanded Diana. "Tell her, you only came here to take a shower, didn't you?" Diana regained her footing. The shock and panic in her eyes only moments ago had already subsided. She brushed back her hair, intentionally or unintentionally exposing the suggestive marks on her collarbone. The corners of her lips curved with faint disdain. "That's right, just as he said. My shower broke, and the hotel was taking too long to fix it, so I came here to use his." I did not even spare the two of them a proper glance. Ignoring Eric's attempts to stop me, I slowly walked inside. The air in the room was somewhat stale and heavy. On the floor, brazenly seductive lace lingerie was tangled together with ripped stockings, forming a debauched and glaringly conspicuous scene. I pulled out a tissue, then calmly bent down and picked up the torn gray crotchless stockings with it. But the instant I picked them up, Eric grabbed my wrist. The veins on the back of his hand and his forehead bulged. They revealed the anger he was suppressing. "What exactly are you trying to do? Say something, okay?" Little by little, I forcefully pulled my wrist free from his grasp. "Don't touch me, you disgust me." The muscles at Eric's temple twitched violently, and his face instantly darkened. He stared at me, yet his finger suddenly lifted and pointed at Diana, who was standing in the doorway. "I fucking didn't do anything with her." I stared coldly at him. "Oh, you didn't do anything? Do you mean you didn't kiss her, didn't touch her, or didn't fuck her?" I picked up the stocking and flung it hard into Eric's face. "Do you think I'm an idiot you can toy with in full?" My rage could finally no longer be restrained. I shoved Eric, who was standing in front of me, away with all my strength. "You disgust me. Eric, we're getting divorced." Chapter 7. Eric refused to get divorced. That was within my expectations. We had been together for too long. Whether it was romantic love or familial affection, there were inevitably still some feelings left between us. Besides, he was the one who had been caught red-handed in bed. As the party at fault, he carried a greater burden of guilt. That made him unable to immediately decide to divorce, because doing so would be equivalent to confirming that he had cheated. Of course, in my view, the most important point was that the interests binding the two of us together ran too deep. The company was founded by both of us. It was at the crucial stage of going public, and the slightest change could affect the entire situation. Eric did not want the state of his relationship to affect the stability of the company's operations. I had thought of all of this. He devoted himself to proving that he had not actually cheated on me physically. In order to convince me, he even brought back all the trash from the hotel that day, spread it out in front of me, and made me inspect it piece by piece. Look, the condoms haven't been used. How many times do I have to tell you before you believe me? I didn't have sex with her. He was hysterical. Beneath his bloodshot eyes were dark, ashen shadows from staying awake. His entire person looked dejected and defeated. For nearly a week since returning from Yun City, he had kept pestering me to believe him. Looking at Eric like this, I felt an uncontrollable ache in my heart. Do you think that as long as you didn't physically cheat, it doesn't count as cheating? I threw the printed chat records between him and Diana in front of him. Over 1,000 messages. These are only a small portion of them. Countless ambiguous and explicit messages covered the pages. I only want to possess you completely. Just once. That day when I forcibly kissed you in the office. You clearly reacted too. I could feel it. You crave my body, just as I crave yours. Your wife is already 29. Aren't you tired of her? Imagine having to hold a body that does absolutely nothing for you for the next several decades. Doesn't that disgust you? Eric's eyes widened. You investigated me? You could have hidden it better and kept it from me for the rest of my life. Perhaps he was hurt by the indifference in my eyes. Eric buried his fingers deeply in his hair and growled. Those were all sent by her alone. I never said anything inappropriate to her. I looked at him calmly. Yes. You didn't say it, but you allowed her to say it. The first time she crossed your boundaries, you chose to indulge her. Perhaps your body preserved the final shred of a boundary, but mentally, you allowed yourself to enjoy the thrill of transgression. Eric, whether it is physical infidelity or emotional infidelity, to me, it is still infidelity. You tainted our love and our marriage. If a fly lands on a cake, am I supposed to keep eating it? Eric whispered in near despair. I really didn't have sex with her, and I never thought of divorcing you. Olivia. I nodded. I believe that you didn't have sex with her, but I no longer care whether you did or not. At 9 o'clock the morning after tomorrow, I'll be waiting for you at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Chapter 8. On my way back to my residence, a new message came through on my phone. It was from a familiar account, Diana. Ever since we returned from Yun City, she had added me as a friend and shared an alternate Weibo account with me. On it, she had completely filled in her version of the story between Eric and her. She had documented every little detail between herself and Eric. For example, the first time she met Eric, she fell in love at first sight with the young and handsome boss and vowed to win him over. For example, the time Eric reprimanded her for dressing inappropriately. It happened when she delivered documents to Eric. He had stared absent-mindedly for several seconds at the deep cleavage revealed when she bent over. Only after coming back to his senses did he issue that order out of embarrassed anger. For example, the first time she and Eric kissed. It happened not long after I was transferred away from headquarters. That night, only she and Eric were left at the company, and she forcibly kissed him, although Eric eventually restrained his impulse and pushed her away. In those moments when desire overwhelmed his senses, the hand that moved upward along Diana's waist was warm and impatient. She became more and more confident about luring Eric into taking the bait. After all, the fish was also very interested in her hook, and this trip to Yun City had been initiated by Eric. I believed that when Eric made that decision, his thoughts definitely had not been as innocent as he claimed. During what followed, perhaps he thought of me, perhaps he thought of the nearly 20 years we had spent together. Or perhaps it was something else. They did not go all the way. He believed that he had pulled back from the precipice in time and spared our marriage its death sentence. But when I saw the details of how they had spent those 2 days together, I only felt disgusted. He said he couldn't betray his wife. So over those 2 days, I got him off with my hand 4 times and with my mouth twice. I just love watching him be unable to resist me. He said it had been a long time since he'd felt this many urges in such a short period of time. He feels as though he's gone back to being 20 again. He's really so powerful. My hands are sore and my mouth is sore too. I can't even imagine how exciting it would be if we really. How disgusting. When Eric was remorseful, furious, and desperate, I had almost softened because of all the happiness we had once shared. Fortunately, Diana had recorded all those details about herself and Eric. Only then was I able to squeeze every last trace of weakness out of my heart. Bit by bit. Chapter 9. Apart from Eric. The other person who flew into a rage after I asked for a divorce was Eric's mother. She aggressively blocked my way at the entrance of the company. Eric said, "You want to divorce him?" People were constantly coming and going at the company entrance. I did not want to become the center of attention. I took a deep breath and asked her to go with me to a nearby cafe. Eric said he didn't do anything to betray you. Why do you insist on refusing to let this go? He's the boss of a major company. He has a lot of business engagements every day. It's normal for a few women to throw themselves at him now and then. Why must you make such a fuss that it ends in divorce? She looked me up and down, undisguised dislike in her eyes. You relied on the company my son worked so hard to build, took the title of partner, and received half the company's shares. Now you say you want a divorce and expect to take half my son's money too? There's no such sweet deal in the world. Back then, I didn't agree to your marriage, but Eric made a huge scene and insisted on marrying you. I knew long ago that you were no good. A born jinx who only came to swindle my son out of his money. I'm telling you, don't even dream of taking a single penny from my son. Divorce? Not a chance. My mother-in-law truly had not changed in decades. Clearly, when my parents were still alive during my childhood, she had been very attentive toward our family. Back then, my father earned money through his business and even brought Eric's father along to make quite a lot of money, allowing their family to move into a bigger house and drive a beautiful, expensive car. Later, my father's business failed, and he committed suicide after going bankrupt, while my mother died from a serious illness. Our family became penniless overnight, and she suddenly stopped liking me, both openly and subtly. She called me a jinx and even said that my ill-fated life had brought about my parents' deaths. Because of those malicious remarks of hers, I once kept my distance from Eric, and our relationship fell to its lowest point. During the year when our relationship was at its worst, Eric had a huge fight with his mother. He warned her that if she ever said such things again, she could pretend she did not have a son. After that, because Eric stood between us, those hurtful words of hers never reached my ears again. I thought she had changed. So it turned out that, in the past, she had only hidden her true thoughts for Eric's sake. I looked at Eric's mother in front of me, elegant in bearing even as the words coming out of her mouth grew increasingly vicious. I gave a soft laugh. Ma'am, as for what you call your son's company, half of its initial startup capital came from me. It was the last thing my grandmother left me before she died. All these years, for every drink he had to down for the company, I stayed up just as many nights for it. Even though you're his mother, you have no right to say that half of the company isn't mine. I advise you to stop here and watch yourself. Otherwise, if I hear you personally attacking me or spreading defamatory rumors about me again, then forget about whether you're 55 this year. Even if you were 85, I would still have my lawyer send you to prison. Eric's mother was furious, probably to strike back at me and make me miserable as well. That very night, she posted an intimate cheek-to-cheek photo of herself and Diana on her Moments feed. When choosing a daughter-in-law, you still have to choose someone who pleases your eye and suits your heart. I stared at it expressionlessly for a while, took a screenshot and sent it to Eric, then added the soon-to-be former mother-in-law of mine to my blacklist. Eric replied with a question mark. My patience had already run out. I truly had no energy left to keep getting entangled with him. Tomorrow at 9, see you at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Chapter 10. I never expected Eric to come to my door. He seemed to have been drinking. His eyes were slightly red. He reached out, wanting to hug me. I stepped aside and avoided him. His arms closed around empty air, and his eyes instantly dimmed. Wife. Olivia, I said expressionlessly. Don't call me that. The repression Eric had endured over the past few days suddenly erupted. He kicked over the vase in the entryway, and the sound of it shattering rang in my ears. Divorce. 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 Do you absolutely have to divorce me? I already said I was wrong. I've begged you. I've admitted my mistake. And I've fired Diana too. I'll never see her again. Why do you insist on getting divorced? Why? I said nothing. I merely looked at Eric calmly. That's right. You just look at me with those eyes. You're not upset at all. You're not sad at all. It's as though I'm some piece of garbage that should be thrown into the trash. That's right. You're clean. You're innocent. You're the only one who upheld your boundaries for this marriage. Right? Olivia. I hate it when you look at me like that. The corners of his eyes were red, but his gaze was filled with viciousness and rage. He was furious that I refused to let go of this tiny mistake of his and had sentenced him to death for it. You're determined to divorce me, aren't you? I said, yes. Fine. Then let's get divorced. After saying that, Eric slammed the door shut. Leaning against the door, I finally allowed the strength to leave my spine and slowly slid down to the floor. My entire body trembled uncontrollably. I did not know how long I had been sitting there. The phone I had unconsciously been clutching tightly in my palm suddenly lit up. Eric had sent me a photo of Diana, barely clothed, straddling his waist. Are you satisfied now? My fingers trembled beyond my control. I no longer even had the strength to hold my phone. Letting it drop to the floor with a sharp clatter, it felt as though someone had ripped open the flesh of my chest and torn my heart out alive. The pain made my entire body curl into a ball. How could I possibly not be sad? That was the boy I had loved deeply since I was a teenager. I could never forget those endless days and nights when debt collectors harassed me without peace. It was he who stayed by my side day and night, every single day, shielding me from countless acts of malice and unknown terrors. I could never forget when my mother died. Rain was pouring outside, and he held me in his arms, gently patting my shoulder just like my mother used to. Cry, Olivia. Once you cry it out, you'll feel better. Someone will continue loving you in your mother's place. Nor could I forget the night he confessed his love to me. When the clear eyes of that young boy were filled with my reflection, he carefully and solemnly placed a gentle kiss at the corner of my lips. Then he promised with absolute conviction, I'll always be by your side. Promises made in youth are truly beautiful. Unfortunately, forever is too far away. The silent protection of that innocent boy in our youth. The tips of his ears turning bright red whenever our fingers accidentally touched beneath the desk, and the gentle kiss beneath the streetlight on a midsummer night ultimately could not withstand his so-called physical attraction toward a fresh body. After all these years, I had long since walked out of the downpour of my youth, but the boy who once held me in his arms and sheltered me beneath his umbrella had still, in the end, lost his way. Chapter 11. At 9 o'clock the next morning, Eric arrived for our appointment on time. He looked somewhat exhausted, yet there was a faint mocking smile at the corners of his lips. When we filed for divorce, he did not even glance at me. He quickly signed his name and handed the documents to the staff member. When he walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, his strides were swift, as though he no longer had the patience to share the same space with me. I called out to him, "Wait." Eric paused. He turned around to look at me. The smile at the corners of his lips deepened, and the mockery in it grew even stronger. What? Having regrets? I took out the divorce agreement I had commissioned a lawyer to draft long ago and handed it to Eric. Take a look. If there aren't any problems, sign it. Eric took it from me. A few seconds later, he raised his head and stared at me fiercely. You don't want the house, the cars, or the shares? You want me to cash out half their market value and give it to you? I nodded. That's right. Almost all the assets under our names had been acquired through the efforts of both of us, so we would each take half. Neither of us would be taking advantage of the other. Eric clenched his teeth tightly. After a long while, he suddenly let out a soft, derisive scoff through his nose. So you don't plan on having even the slightest connection to anything related to me anymore, do you? Olivia, you're fucking heartless. My expression did not change in the slightest. I handed him a pen. Sign it. Eric took it, swiftly signed his name, then violently flung all the documents back into my hands. I contacted my lawyer and had Eric's copy mailed to him. Next, I began seriously preparing to study abroad. This was something I should have done 8 years ago. After graduating from university, my original plan had been to continue my studies overseas, in order to accompany Eric, who had nothing at the time, as he started his business. I chose to put my education on hold. Had this marriage not come to such an abrupt end, perhaps I would have permanently abandoned the dream I once had of studying abroad and, just as Eric's family expected, had a child early and lived a life devoted to supporting my husband and raising our children. Only now that I had escaped did I realize that I did like children, but nowhere near enough to sacrifice all the other possibilities in my life for the sake of having one. I had looked forward to marriage, but perhaps only by walking alone could I go farther and see more of the world. Chapter 12. A few days later, I received a call from Eric. Your things, find some time to come and take them away. Throw them out. There's nothing I want anymore. I had already taken all the important things with me the day I moved out. Everything left behind was more or less connected to Eric. Eric continued speaking in that sarcastic, passive-aggressive tone. Sorry, but I have no obligation to throw them out for you, I said. Then find someone who collects garbage to take them away. After saying that, I hung up. That night, I received another batch of intimate photos, but this time, Diana sent them, on the bed where Eric and I had once slept together for 4 years. Diana, dressed in sultry, provocative clothing, was having sex with Eric. There were several photos. They had been taken from different angles. I found the two of them quite interesting. They even had the leisure and inclination to take an entire photo album for my viewing pleasure. Impressive. I took screenshots of each one, sent them to my lawyer, and then blocked Diana. I thought that, now that things had come this far, there would no longer be any problems with the divorce a month later. But when that day came, Eric did not show up. He answered the phone the instant I called him. He was no longer sarcastic. His tone had returned to its former steady calm. Olivia, I still don't want a divorce. I'm not going. Chapter 13. I was almost so angry that I laughed. Why? Give me a reason. I love you. It's that simple. In this lifetime, other than you, I've never thought of marrying another woman, much less divorcing you. I know a broken mirror can never be made whole again, but now that things have come to this, I would rather be married to you in name only than let you disappear from my life. Olivia, I always feel that if we get divorced, I'll never see you again. Not only did Eric refuse to divorce me, he also began appearing frequently within my line of sight. Sometimes, even when I merely went downstairs to buy a cup of coffee, I would run into him at the cafe. He maintained a distance that was neither too close nor too far, constantly reminding me of his presence. I threatened that if he refused to divorce me, I would expose his relationship with Diana and affect the company's public listing. He merely spread his hands. The company is the fruit of both our hard work. Since you don't even intend to keep it anymore, then I don't care either. The relentlessly persistent part of his nature completely took control of the situation. After half a month of this stalemate, I finally made up my mind. The next time I ran into Eric downstairs while taking out the trash, I flung a medical test report in front of him. I watched helplessly as Eric's expression changed from calm to disbelief, and then to ecstatic delight. He reached out, wanting to hug me. Olivia, is this real? You're pregnant? It's our child? I took a deep breath. Yes, I'm almost 3 months along. Eric, if you refuse to agree to the divorce, I'll abort this child and then make sure you can never find me again. The joy on Eric's face froze. He looked steadily at me. Only after a long while did he speak in a strained, hoarse voice. If we divorce, will you be willing to give birth to the child? I nodded, my eyes reddening despite myself. Eric, you know that I don't have any family left. More than anyone else, I long for a life connected to me by blood to stay by my side. Eric did not speak for a long time. I raised my head and only then discovered that a tear hung at the corner of his eye. His voice choked slightly. Olivia, but I don't want to. If we don't divorce, I won't give birth to this child. I'll go back tonight and take pills to abort it. Chapter 14. Eric and I stepped into the Civil Affairs Bureau once again to file for divorce. After we finished the procedure and walked out, a huge sum of money appeared in my bank account, enough for me to live comfortably for several lifetimes. The way Eric looked at me was very gentle. I've already liquidated all the assets under both our names and transferred the money into your account. From now on, the company's annual dividends will also be deposited into your account on time." I had just been about to speak when Eric hurriedly interrupted me. "Olivia, don't refuse me. Consider it my compensation to you and the child." I pursed my lips and eventually nodded. Over the following month, Eric bought countless baby products. He bought dozens of outfits for the baby alone. Because he did not know whether it was a boy or a girl, he prepared plenty for both. He even specifically enrolled in early education classes designed for first-time fathers, and booked several hospitals and maternity nurses in advance for after the baby was born. In the blink of an eye, the day of our official divorce arrived. When it was time to sign, Eric hesitated for a very long time. For a long while, he could not bring himself to lower the pen, the struggle in his eyes almost turning tangible. As though inadvertently, I stroked my stomach and said gently, "Hurry up and sign." "Eric, I have a prenatal checkup appointment in a little while." The pen in his hand was nearly snapped in two. A single name took Eric nearly 10 minutes to write, one stroke at a time. Looking at the freshly issued divorce certificate in my hand, I revealed my first truly sincere smile in several months. Eric looked somewhat dejected, but still forced out a smile. "The Women and Children's Hospital? Let me go with you." I shook my head. "I want to go alone today. Next time, before my next prenatal checkup, I'll call you, and you can come with me." Eric's eyes lit up. He was almost incoherent. "Really, Olivia? You really are willing to let me go with you next time?" I nodded and smiled. "Really." Chapter 15. As the plane flew into the clouds, I watched the city below grow smaller and smaller. I thought, compared to those countless nights when Eric pretended to be asleep while secretly flirting with Diana in silent mutual understanding, this little lie of mine was harmless. A forged prenatal examination report, along with feigned sadness and heartache, in exchange for freedom from my marriage. My methods were not honorable, but my conscience was clear. After all, a wonderful future was still waiting for me. I did not have so much time to waste entangled with rotten people and rotten matters. When the plane landed, there were countless incoming calls on my phone. All of them were from Eric. I opened my domestic social media apps and discovered that news of the office romance between Eric and Diana had already caused a tremendous uproar. This was another lie I had told Eric, who said I would not expose them. The timing simply had not been right yet. Sure enough, the company's stock plummeted overnight because of the scandalous news that the founder betrayed the wife who stood by him through hardship and cheated with a sexy female employee. The plan to go public would probably have to be put on hold for several more years. Even several of the company's internal group chats were discussing the explosive news. But the boss always looked like he loved his wife so much. If even someone like him can't resist temptation, I'll never believe in love again. You didn't see all those men at the company practically wanting to bury their eyes in Diana's neckline with a killer body like hers. What man could resist? But she isn't even particularly competent at her job. Do men really all like pretty ornaments? I still think Olivia is better. She looks so gentle, and her capabilities are beyond question. Don't even mention it. Haven't you seen the timeline? Diana seduced him not long after she arrived. All I can say is, the only loyal man is one hanging on a wall. I could not help smiling as I read them, then quietly left the group chats. Immediately afterward, I received a call from Eric. I answered it unhurriedly. All I heard was Eric's furious growl on the other end of the phone. "Olivia, where are you? Where did you go? Do you need something from me? What about the baby? What about the baby in your stomach? Didn't you say that as long as we divorced, you would keep the baby? Where did you run off to? You even said you would let me accompany you to your prenatal checkup. You lied to me. How could you lie to me?" Eric's voice was choked with emotion, his words rapid and frantic. He was probably crying, but there was not the slightest ripple in my heart. "Why can't I lie to you? There was never any baby. What prenatal checkup would there be?" I sneered. "What are you so worked up about? When you lied to me, did you ever think that this day would come for you?" "Eric, from now on, we'll each go our separate ways. Don't bother me again." Before I hung up, I seemed to hear Eric's heartrending wails, but I only found them noisy. Chapter 16. I quickly adapted to life abroad. After changing to a new phone number, everything back home had nothing more to do with me. But people from my old social circle would inevitably, to some extent, still bring up news about Eric. I had thought our ending would be that each of us lived our own peaceful lives. I never expected that the next time I heard Eric's name, he would be involved in an attempted murder case. He had nearly killed Diana. After their affair was exposed, Diana was cursed by countless internet users, and her social media accounts were dug up, including the alternate Weibo account where she documented everything between Eric and herself. Those obscene posts became weapons for internet users to attack her with. Unable to bear the harassment, she ran to the company and publicly forced Eric to marry her. If Eric refused, she would expose the secret between the two of them. But Eric did not care about any secret at all. He hated Diana to the bone, saying that Diana had destroyed his originally perfect life. "You ruined me. You destroyed my family. You made me lose my Olivia and our child." Overcome with emotion, Eric pushed Diana from an upper floor. She did not die, but she was left paralyzed from a high spinal injury and would only be able to spend the rest of her life in a hospital bed. Eric was arrested on the spot. The company was also on the verge of bankruptcy because of one negative scandal after another. I logged into the social media account I had not used in a very long time. Inside, I discovered several messages from Diana. "Everyone is cursing me, but ever since you found out about us, Eric hasn't been able to get it up. Nothing ever really happened between us. Those photos were all staged by him just to make you angry. Please, I'm begging you, say something for me, okay? I don't want to keep being cursed at anymore." Yes, the two of you were utterly innocent. That was probably the secret she had been referring to. Unfortunately, I did not care. And Eric, having given up on everything, did not care either. Instead, she only ended up ruining herself. Eric's mother went through several channels to contact me, begging me to return home and take charge of the overall situation for Eric. I refused. From the moment I received my divorce certificate, anything concerning Eric had nothing more to do with me. The rusted days of the past had already come to an end. New scenery awaited me in my future.